أنا اسمي منير مصطفى كمال. آه أنا شغال في السايبر سيكيورتي تقريبا لآخر 20 سنة. آه النهاردة عايزين نتكلم على شيء مهم جدا، هو السيتويشنال أويرنس، وتحديدا إيه الانديكيتور فور سيتويشنال أويرنس. خلينا نركز على حاجة مهمة جدا، هي طول فترة العمل في السايبر سيكيورتي كنا بنحاول to avoid السربرايز. كل حاجة في حياتنا بتلاقي فيها سربرايز، معناها إن في حاجة في السيتويشنال أويرنس أو الإنديكيتورز المصطحبة associated with the situational awareness. Our work is victim and adversary. إزاي تبص على situational awareness من منطلق الفيكتيم. من خلال البرزنتيشن هنبص على كذا نقطة: situational awareness, indicators in cybersecurity. خلينا نبدأ. يعني إيه situational awareness؟ ويعني إيه indicators؟ Situational awareness is to understand the situation of a certain case and to be aware of every element on it. عايز أفرجكم على صورة دلوقتي. الصورة دي احنا بنشوفها كتير جدا، بتبعت رسالة غلط عن معنى situation awareness. أي حد عايز يبان إن هو لايف ممكن يبين الأسهم ديت as a security threats، ولكن في الحقيقة هي الصورة اللي قدامكم ديت بتاع الفلايتس around the world، والحقيقة الأكتر إنهم شبيهين جدا ببعض، نظرا لأن السايبر سيكيورتي is very dynamic field like the civil aviation. It is very dynamic too, which urge us to think about the situational awareness. Situational awareness by definition is the perception of the elements in environment within a volume of time and space. أهم حاجة إن أنا أفهم ال element of these situations. Then I conduct a comprehensions about this. Then a projections. طبعا this theory was developed in 1988 by Anderson. الكونسبت كان موجود لخدمة الميليتري، وبعد كده طوروه لخدمة الافيشن والهيلث سيكتور، ولكن الابيوز بتاع التيرمز في السايبر سيكيورتي تحول الى شاشات سطحية بدون معنى. النهاردة عايزين نشوف المعنى الأعمق للسيتويشن أويرنس، وإزاي ناخد الاتجاه السليم في السيتويشن أويرنس، ونحدد الانديكيتورز اللي تقدر تقول لي what is my situation in cybersecurity space. Situational awareness فايدتها إن أنا أقدر أشوف the unfamiliar important things. We have a lot of events, we have a lot of dynamics in the cybersecurity. This is the most important area, the unfamiliar and important. الجزء ده هو اللي بيحدد إن في potential threats. الجزء ده إزاي تحط the right elements and indicators to have a clear vision. It is very important to define the risk and to remove the uncertainty. خلينا نخش إزاي نعمل situational awareness. 3 levels to have a situational awareness. Perceptions of elements. لازم أبقى عندي المعرفة الدقيقة للعناصر الأساسية الخاصة بالموضوع. ده situational awareness بعيد خالص عن السايبر سيكيورتي. تاني حاجة لازم أشوف الترابط بين الإليمنتس دي. by comprehensions. تالت حاجة لازم أعمل projection for the future. إيه اللي لو جينا على السايبر سيكيورتي هتلاقي إن في elements موجودة طبيعية ممكن تكون تربط ال areas of different cyber security، تشرح العلاقات بينهم and then to expect the threats. ال principle of situational awareness is like this. أنا عندي عناصر أساسية في السايبر سيكيورتي هنشوفها في النكست سلايدز، بتقدر تربطها ببعض بشكل مناسب عشان تحدد ايه الانديكيتورز اللي ممكن تستنتجها اللي منها ترسم your situational awareness. أنا ليه بعمل situational awareness؟ عشان decisions. What is the right decisions? How I can change this situation to more optimum states. And then I measure the result of these decisions and conduct a feedback. ليه؟ لأن ممكن بسهولة جدا أكون اخترت a wrong elements في المرحلة دي أو ترجمت حاجة بشكل مش سليم، وبالتالي خدت قرار مش سليم بناء عليه I should fix this. لحد كده كويس جدا. أنا بعمل situational awareness عشان أقدر optimize الستاتس وmeasure the situation of cyber security and optimize it. في عناصر أخرى مرتبطة بالموضوع. أول عنصر ما أقدرش أتغاضى عنه العنصر البشري. مين اللي هيدرايف the situational awareness؟ ability, experience and training. Who will conduct this؟ النقطة التانية المهمة جدا السيستمز. أنا ممكن أعمل situation awareness على data center فيها 2 racks of servers، وممكن أعمل situation awareness for a country. Complex of the system is very important. To conduct a proper situational awareness for anything in our life, you have to add this to your mind. Number one, the human factor, who will be developed this, and second, the complex of the systems and how we conduct this. طيب، أحيانا الواحد ممكن يعتقد إنه فاهم السيتويشن awareness من وجهة نظره هو، ولكن مش هو ده المطلوب. المطلوب إن السيتويشن awareness تطلق من أكتر من وجهة نظر، وبالتالي أي individual situational awareness هتبقى sub of the total group until you look for the details and from a different views. ودي situational awareness اللي احنا عايزينها the optimum situational awareness, not individual situational awareness. This is one of the most important things. Level of awareness sometimes is highly important. This is the concept of situational awareness elements, and then comprehensions, and then projections. These with external factors, human factors, and the system factors. What is the indicators? Indicators is one of the most important things. لو احنا بصينا على اللي حصل مثلا في مطار كابول من شهر، ده يقول ببساطة في lack of situational awareness و lack of indicators. نبعد شوية زمان اللي حصل في 11 سبتمبر، it is lack of situational awareness and loss of indicators. The indicators في cyber security when it comes to cyber security اللي حصل في أي major cyber attacks you know about it, it is a lack of situational awareness and the mislead of indicators. One of the biggest mislead of indicators is the confidence level. You feel like your system is the most secure system, and suddenly you surprise. SolarWinds was one of the incidents that has been compromised suddenly without any alert, while this a software company selling security solutions. It is major weakness of situational awareness. What is the properties of indicators is it has to be observable, collectible, valid. Valid meaning it is valid indicators to put in our account. That is one of the indicators. Stable. I have the feeds with stable level. Unique, because whenever there is any overlap of indicators, it will mislead us. So the best way is to do scenarios based, and for every scenario you extract the indicators, and for every indicators there is diagnostic functions that inform me this indicator is likely or unlikely, or we give a categories of 5: highly likely, likely, could be, unlikely, or highly unlikely. And these indicators will drive our situational awareness. To go a little bit deep, indicators is a types. There is evaluative indicators, estimated indicators, and warning indicators. Evaluative indicators is something referred to the past, related to something happened, related to a tangible evidence. Most of the time is quantitative and clarifies. Estimated indicators is something you try to project, something in future, qualitative, related to future events, come from analytics of historical analogy. Warning indicators is a warning. There is a red flag. There is a red light. You have to be careful when you have a red indicator. Speaking about the red indicators, there is a lot of something called ignored indicators. For the non-cyber, this is a report in 10 of July 2001 from FBI officer speaking about doubt of 11 September. It was Phoenix reports. It is very famous status for ignored indicators, and the result was a disaster. Speaking about Shamoon, if you remember, there is a 2 or 3 version of Shamoon has been impacted in the region. You can recognize indicators ignored while the attacker try to upload a different format of website and ignored also a very clear web shell tribes, and ignored also the success of running certain commands, and ignore the last thing is the system send alert for the administrator informing him the attacker add himself to the administrative groups. Ignore indicators is the most critical weakness in most of the incidents I have seen in my life. The system responds. The system there is an event, but ignore indicators is the most fatal error for disasters. Now, I have go through the situational awareness and go through the indicators, and now the cybersecurity. What is the most 5 categories that all of us working on in the cybersecurity during all the ages? Cybersecurity related to the business, and the business here is not related to commercial business, but business of government, business of critical assets, business of uh, uh, organization, business for national level. It's a business. And the business part who drives the cybersecurity part and direct it based on a specific strategy. The second main governance and compliance. You have note here I removed the risk because I believe risk should not be here. All of us, all these items of cybersecurity working for the risk. So governance and compliance, what is the standards? What is the policies? What is the practice as is for applying a cybersecurity in whatever you are working for? The third item is security engineering. And security engineering part is everything related to the security architectures, security solutions, firewall, antivirus, architectures, and software development lifecycle, and how to be secure, capabilities of any cybersecurity solutions or information security solutions. The fourth item is the security operations. What is my security operations? And the security operations maybe have a lot of items, such as threat monitoring, hunting and incident response, assessment. All of this is a security operations. Cyber threat intelligence is the one which is very important and the most close to the adversary. No, my adversary is the label of cyber threat intelligence. This is the 5 components or element of cybersecurity. We will go through our presentations based on these directions. Maybe I forget any sub-items, but this is the biggest category of cybersecurity. Now, before going to define every item of cybersecurity, let us see the life cycle. Why we are here, why the cybersecurity are here, and why the business needs cybersecurity. First, there is a specific business needs asked to achieve a certain business objective. You have 2 solutions, either to acquire it or develop in-house. If you acquire and deploy or design and develop, you have to be sure these both are somehow having security capabilities. And then you execute and operate. The security engineering here is to defend such solutions designed to achieve a specific business objective. During this phase, we come up with a new technology. A new technology means new attack surface, new configuration, new code achieve your business. This new code requires how threat analysis. The threat analysis comes with a specific recommendation to countermeasure threats. At the same time, this is the threat intelligence part. So you come up with a specific knowledge of adversary, TTPs, capabilities, and the indication of compromise that update the controls and configurations. Update or create a new control based on the information of the adversary. This will help you to keep the system running in a secure manner. This is the life cycle. So let us back to this. Business, governance and compliance, security engineering, security operation, cyber threat intelligence. This is a sample. Of course, it is not complete, but sample of the item that whenever we work in these areas, we cover it. The business process, the business risk, the assets, business impact analysis, and business continuity, all of them look towards the business. Legislation, regulation, governance, compliance, awareness is looking for the governance and compliance. Security architectures, countermeasures, software development lifecycle, change management is security engineering part. And most of us may be not seeing this a lot in our real life. But people may be pushed to use and directed to the security operations, which cover the threat detections, incident response and hunting, assessment, recovery, and the active defense. And the threat intelligence is containing a lot of components too that cover operational intelligence, tactical intelligence, and strategic intelligence. How I know myself and how I know my adversary. How I get benefit from threat modeling to threat intelligence. How I use operational intelligence in detections. How I use many cases, a recovery and the business impact. This is the comprehension of element in cybersecurity. And this is the interactions between different elements in the cybersecurity. Back again to the situational awareness. These assumptions point to the life cycle of cybersecurity. We have seen during the last 30 years of cybersecurity attacks. Business to decide the target security. Whenever there is something required, something enable countermeasures and security control, this will be the target security. I need to reach to this level of target security. Governance and compliance will create somehow measure the baseline of security and what is the minimum level. So that's why we look for standards and try to comply with. We look for policy, procedures, and guidelines to align with. Security engineering is the security capabilities. What I have. If I have a DMZ zone or a specific data center, what I have from security capabilities, what I have from starting from endpoint, firewalls, intrusion detections, IPS, this is the capabilities. And this is the capabilities you build for a system, either before during or after implementations. So there is a certain capabilities by design before deployment and during the deployment and after the deployment. And this is, it comes when we speak about the software development lifecycle, security architectures, and all of these areas. Then it comes to achieve security. And this is the phase while I can measure my cybersecurity. Achieve security is you enable some capabilities here and you add some target here and you are baseline here, and this is compile your situations. If there is any somehow and compromise all of this bypassing all of your controls, the only way to know is the security operations. So we assume the real achieve security capabilities is somehow looking for after the security capabilities. And now come to the adversary capabilities. And the adversary capabilities is collected from the cyber threat intelligence work you as an organization conduct. And the difference between this and this and this compile to you the status. That's why when you build any risk plan and you conduct the likelihood, you should understand which adversary you try to be protected from. The countermeasures under the capabilities and under the operation will give you indicators which level of adversary you can be protected from. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 indicators can tell you your situations. This is not enough. Let us go deep next on those. What about if you give scales of this? Scales of adversary measure the achieved security and the security capabilities with differences with the target security, and you then come back to the business and inform this is the achieved security, we still not reached to the target security, and there is an estimated layer of security against a certain adversary cannot be achieved. Dynamic of cybersecurity. If we look here, the changes on the 5 elements of security is not the same. The dynamics of every element is not the same. The changes in every one is not the same. The security operation is on the top. Security operation looking for logs, traffic, events, very fast, seconds. And this is the most high frequency layer of the cybersecurity dynamic. Next is the cyber threat intelligence. And this is very important for us to optimize what's going here. Then it comes to the business intelligence. Every month we may see changes in the business. There is a new changes of the business. That's why there is very important link between the business intelligence and the cyber intelligence. If there are new competitors, if there is a conflict with the country, that you have a supply chain, if there is an issue that could interrupt your business, the marriage between cyber threat intelligence and the business intelligence is have to sync all the time. The cyber intel is faster, but it has to have some inputs from a business intelligence. Then it comes to the architectures. Architectures, how many times you need to change the architecture of your systems? It takes a longer time. It takes a longer time to change design of DMZ or firewall or zones or conduits. When it comes to governance, we have to check the most slower development is here. Standards maybe take 3 years to update and approved and published, and this is less dynamic than others. So if we have this, we should focus our situational awareness from top down here. So we will resort again the items of the cybersecurity to be operations, intelligence, business, security engineering, and governance and compliance. By this way, we are looking for the most fast flow of data, which is the security operations, and then the slower is the threat intelligence, and we then go down until reach the governance and compliance. It doesn't mean you should forget this or this, but it's believed that the changes of this will be required a major changes. For every 3 years, there may be a new security standards, for example, for OT, which required some optimization here. But it takes 3 years. You know about these situations. You understand the situational of this development easy, but at the same time, it is very hard to keep the same situational awareness and the indicator of this situational awareness in the operation areas. Now, we understand very well the indicator of achieve is something very important, how I measure it, and the adversary is very important to have accurate situational awareness, and the business, and then the capabilities and security baseline. This is a step to draw the proper situational awareness for organizations. There is indicators. These indicators may be looked from the view of adversary, which is very important. As long as you look for yourself, you need to look from adversary view, because the fact is adversary looking for you and understand and try to figure out if he detected, if there is any threat intelligence information, if there is any business changes, if there is any changes in the architectures and the standards. This is the proposed indicators from this perspective. Attack vectors is about all the scenario. Attack vectors is every attack vectors that may impact organizations. Attack vectors, it is a long exercise to recognize and summarize your weakness. It is a mix of attack surface, threat modeling, and advanced threat actors direction. attractiveness. From your perspective, what is the most attractive assets that could be targeted by attacker? Attacker will not target you for nothing. There have to be something attractive. Whatever the attractions is, data, infrastructure, or people, all of this is attractiveness factors. We should add to our mind that the assets threat modeling to address what may be attractive for attacker. And then when it comes to the adversary, both of these two items refer to still information about you. But what about this information about the adversary? Intent is the start of taking some actions that come after motivate the attacker to initiate some attacks. And most of the time the intent will try to measure these 5 factors. The highest is, are you monitoring any trial? The second, are you recognize this IP from threat intelligence? The third, what is the intent for this as a business intelligence? And here is not again business meaning commercial, but any critical sectors. And what is the defined control and countermeasures you deploy? When it comes to capabilities, is the big factors. In relation with attractiveness, the capability will increase. If you have something big, I will try to get enough capabilities to get these things. Opportunity is the art of monitor the changes in everything of these elements. How and when I can use specific changes to become adversary opportunity to compromise your systems. This is the links. So we have again here security operations, threat intelligence, business engineering, governance and compliance. On the other side, we have attack vectors, attractiveness, intent, capabilities, and opportunities. This is the indicators that could define your situational awareness. And this is the equations. Attack vectors will be equations of security operations because this is one of the monitoring threats and the threat intelligence and also the security engineering and also the compliance. If you are really aligned, or I will use certain control not exist in this standard which you are compliant. Attractiveness is directly to business in association with security engineering. We will take examples of attack vectors because attack vectors, it's a combination of the security operation weakness. So if you don't have a backup, and I'm sure you are doing mistakes by, for example, doing the backup on assigned storage exists on the same environment within the same privilege, I can infect you with a ransomware that will be sure you don't have any of this data again. Attack vectors is designed by the threat intelligence. Whenever there is some information of threat intelligence, I can list more attack vectors. I can develop more attack vectors from our side. security engineering, and GCC. All of this is targeting business based on the attacker capabilities. So the equation here, a list of attack vectors based on capabilities and the countermeasures you have, you can target the business. Attack vectors. Attack vectors from security engineering part. Back to, I have a business process. This business process have IT assets. IT assets is a multiple components. For every component, I have a list of threats that are associated with the threat source actors and the event. All of these threats, components, attack vectors, I can create a number of listed attack vectors. This is a process to create attack vectors. Assets, attack surfaces. I decompose the system to analyze it. I create the attack vector and list the threats and objectives. This is how to create the attack vector first. The process is very straightforward. Because of the time, I can not give you a list of examples, but we usually use to list of attack vector a combination of stride LM, the stride threat modeling methods, attack tree, which is developed since a very long time, and to be easier, we identify a specific threat actors. That's why the threat actors and the attack vector should be aligned together. In a very simple way, we may use here the kill chain concept. You can change it by any, but for generic approach for any attacks, this is the kill chain, which consists of 7 steps: recon, weaponization, delivery, exploitation, installation, command control, and action objectives. And as we agreed, there is security operation and security engineering, and the baseline is somehow input of these attack vectors. Every attack vectors will define the face of the attack. There is some mechanism for the possibility of detections. So there is some threats and the attack vector. It is very hard to detect, or it is very easy to detect. You can score from 0 to 10 or 0 to 5 or 1 to 5. Also, there is a severity and occurrence. This is also factors to sort the attack vectors based on multiplication of these 3 factors. Can you detect? It is severe. It is how many times these threats occur. Compare it with the countermeasures. The countermeasures of any attack vectors should be based on this. It is very important to remember the countermeasures is having some issues. We will cover it in the next slides. Then attractiveness. Attractiveness is something very important. If you don't have any value, why I will spend the resources to compromise your system? Maybe sometimes some organization inform you I don't have something that have a value. This is totally wrong. Your external connection, your customers, your supply chains, if you don't have a data in your organization, you have trusted relations with cascaded customer that I can use this you as a stage to compromise others. We have seen many of attacks of supply chain attacks compromise the contractors to reach to critical infrastructure organizations because you trust it. So never think that there is an organization without any attractive items. Security engineering also. Your security control is important. As much as your security capability is weak, you will be attractive for adversary. So this is a relations is based on your capabilities of security. Back to again the capabilities. Capabilities is the adversary capabilities. It is I'm building the capabilities based on your control of countermeasures, monitoring, and the information you have. If we have a certain capabilities to at least having a MITRE attacks capabilities and somehow deploy it in the security operation will have a reach level of detections. So capabilities should be a factors of this. And adversary will try to overcome all of your capabilities that could initiate attack vectors. If you would like to solve this issue, so the attacker capabilities is a factors that should be deployed in operation, intelligence, and engineering to reduce number of attack vectors, which is the optimum results. Adversary capabilities is depend on many factors. The methods, the resource, and the relationship. Let us go for the methods. Some adversary focus on cyber, or partially on cyber, or totally non-cyber issues. All of this will generate a different attack vectors using a different vulnerability and using even a supply chain. This is how we evaluate the capability of the adversary. Every case, if the attacker develops a new attack vectors, it means some weight of the adversary capabilities. Discover new vulnerabilities that not exist, it gives some weight for the adversary capability. Use a supply chain, even compromise the company you acquire a software or acquire the company to develop a software, it's a different capabilities. And then move to the resources. And the resources is not only technical, but financial and organizational. Organizational mean whenever there is a nation-state attack supported by the government, you will not have any issue to find any more information because it's legally, financially supported by a nation. Or it is a personal that try to compromise your systems. A relationship and develop and exchange experience between different threat actors is a big factor. We should put in our mind the relation between different threat actors. And we have reached here for a 5 adversary capability categorizations. Some, which is level 1, is very limited resources using the available malware and the available attack vectors to compromise your systems. And it was the first level of generic skills to attack systems. The second is somehow moderate motivations, and they can use somehow customized malware for specific attack vectors. 3 is a group who discover a vulnerability and designs a new attack vectors. It is highly skilled, highly motivated, and sometimes they may have some skills for a specific industry like OT, ICS, banking sectors. All of these is very specific applications need someone who have experience in the protocol, design of network related to banking network, OT network, or even government network. He understands what is the most common terms used. He will be very familiar with supply chain attacks with extended resources and sometimes move from cyber to non-cyber. This is capability 4. Capability 5 is he built his opportunity. And this is one of his target mainly is non-cyber. And his target somehow service providers, somehow a nation state target, and somehow he built the opportunity by be a part not only from the supply chain, but we called it reverse social engineering. You will ask him or someone have a relation with him to help the organizations. And in most of the cases, it is not cyber goods. Now, I have a table from security countermeasures and adversary capabilities. The security controls, let us remember something. If I have a username and passwords, and username and password is complex, and username and password with a fingerprint, and username and password with two-factor authentication, and so on. All of this is different security control and the countermeasures. I remember someone, if you ask Microsoft, I need a password policy with one character, caps, symbols, and the minimum 12 characters. I am saying the password like my name at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the policy. I apply the policy. Is it secure? You can consider this as a secure. So from our perspective, security control is levels. And these levels will require different skills to compromise. Malware is different than a specific decryption of HTTPS traffics, and so on. So this is related to the adversary who can compromise these countermeasures. There is something called countermeasures segregation, which is, if you remember that we start by packet filter firewall, and then stateful inspection firewall, and then application layer firewall, and then UTM, Unified Threat Management. All of this is countermeasures. But at a certain time, we have seen the packet filter disappear because the countermeasures degradations. Most of bypassing this control become available. Username and passwords. And why most of, if you back 10 years, Google was username and password. Yahoo, Microsoft, everyone is username and password. Why we go for two-factor authentication? Because the threats drive the countermeasures and vanished because of the phishing and the social engineering acts. So from situational awareness perspective, I would like to highlight here is there is a 5 level. And this 5 level, the first and the second is very close. Either I am unaware of threats, or I am in a panic mode of threats. I cannot recognize. And this is what we call it, it's freeze or shock. So either you are turned out, you are not aware of the threats, or you are in a panic mode whenever there is a threat. Whenever there is an alert of threats, you cannot recognize what's going on. And then the third level is the relaxed, which is you have alert, you know about it, it's a very relaxed mood. And the focus is something you drive the car because the road is icy or slushy, and you drive the car in very careful way. And the 5 is red code, is you have already a plan whenever you act to any attack vectors, because during the last slides we list the attack vectors and we compare it with our security capability, and we know it and we understand very well some attack vectors will bypass our security capabilities, and I should monitor it and detect it, and there is a plan to respond whenever these detections. This is the most important slide. I have a certain attack vectors. I should be listed, studied, identified it. I have some attractiveness in my assets. I should list it, understand the countermeasures, be careful of the countermeasures degradation. And I have to monitor the intent of any threat actions, even if it's not straightforward, even it is not important. There is the important thing of this exercise from a situational perspective is to identify the signal from the noise. Reduction of noise is very important, and the intent will require you to act and add a plan. Capabilities and opportunities. When we come to this, it is very clear the unaware and the ineffective will not help you a lot. Relax, focus, and act. You can move between these three based on the information you collected from your security operations. You have a partial attack vectors or a partial attractiveness, or you have most of them. You know whenever some threats target these assets based on partial capabilities, or you have least most of attack vectors and attractiveness. You complete the exercise with a complete capabilities, and from time to time you check if there is any intent or any changes. And the changes here is not only your organization but all the environment around you. If there is any changes could allow or enable a specific opportunity to start some attacks against you. Thank you very much. Please let me know if there is any questions. You can ask me anytime using the application over the mobile. I will be online all the time during the conference or even after the conference. Thank you very much.